Welcome to the fourth instalment of the Romania trip. Today is the day where I show you guys the castles and in search of Vlad Tepes. So we had to get tickets. I actually bought them ahead of schedule. Travelling in Romania was quite a bit of a culture shock compared to the European travel. But it did kind of feel like I was David Attenborough. It's a good experience, but it's a bit of a culture shock because it's nowhere near as kind of high tech as the UK. Also, trains run on diesel here, so there are no overhead wires. But as you can see out the window, I've taken a fair bit of landscape. The landscape is very rugged, it's very harsh, but very pretty because you can see the Carpathians rising in the background as we get closer to them. I did a tour of the castle, so I didn't film as much as I wanted to, but hopefully I've got all the bits and pieces out there. First castle we will be going to is Rasnov Castle. Rasnov it was first mentioned in 1331, but it could have been built earlier. So it started small and then it was enlarged by our good friends the Saxons. It's strategically placed because it kind of links Transylvania to Wallachia, which is the kingdom which was, it's no more, but it's where Vlad Tepes himself was born and the kingdom that he owned. The journey was pleasant enough, very quiet. There's a lot of wild dogs in Romania, and this is the point I wanted to raise earlier. Thanks to new kind of living and people knocked down loads of the old buildings and made flats. A lot of people just had to set their dogs free because they couldn't look after them anymore and they had to look after their families. So you may see a few dogs in these videos, and they are wild. Okay, so we met up for the tour at 9 o'clock, nice and early. And we got driven, which is the great thing about this tour, which I wanted, was driven to both castles. Otherwise, it's quite a hike and you won't get them both done in time. So as you can see, Rasnov Castle is on top of a hill and it's got a little Hollywood sign, which is quite nice. They had that in Brasov as well, so Brasov has one, Rasnov has one, and it's quite nice. You can see the houses are gated, so this was to protect them from invasion. So it's a German thing. As said, Germany has a lot of influence in Romania. They would gate the houses off, so if there was an attack, you had better chances of surviving because you have a gate to defend and you can block it and block yourself in and barricade yourself in. So this was taken from a German technique. And up we go. We took the lift up to the castle, otherwise it's quite a few staircases, and the tour guide of course has a set schedule, so we took a lift up, but it also gave me this gorgeous bird's eye view of the town itself. So Rasnov Castle is Rasnov. I keep saying Brasov, but it's Rasnov Castle. The castle itself, it's kind of ruined now. Some bits are being restored. So what you'll notice is there's not much of this compared to Bran Castle, which you'll see later. And again, some beautiful bird's eye views of this town and the Carpathians in the mountains. There was snow in the mountains, which is quite nice. And this is I think this is one of those famous shots where people take a lot of pictures of the gatehouse here, and I had to take it, so I've got my own picture thrown in here as well. nice and creepy. I took out all the colour, so it's kind of a black and white image. It looks great. We also saw evidence of bears living around this area. The bear is famous in Romania, and it is also revered, so they won't hurt the bear. They're very proud of having the bear. Here you can see it's very Roman styled, but what I found odd was this castle here, this turret. This turret is square, meaning if it was to be dug underneath and they were to blow it up, it would come crumbling down, which is called undermining. Undermining is something you'll hear in the English language. I was seriously undermined, which comes back from Tudor period. The William the Conqueror, Norman kind of period where castles suddenly go into round turrets. So I found it a bit weird that this castle actually had a square turret still. And again, cats. There's a lot of cats about, but again with the dogs, they are allowed to roam. They also keep the mouse population down, so these guys are allowed to live in the castle. I would definitely recommend checking out this castle. I know it's not as big and fabulous and it doesn't have the aesthetic look of Bran Castle, but it's still a historical importance. It's a trade link, and that kind of gap you keep seeing on the pictures, the gap in the Carpathians, is where we're heading over to Bran. So that gap there, that is the gap where it was just placed there so we can see any armies coming down the gap kind of thing. So it's strategically placed so you can see just over that nice valley. Any armies approaching, you'd have a lot of alert time. You'd be able to prepare. Okay. I had to choose Toccata for this. So, In Search of Vlad Tepes. A lot of people have said that this, even though this is the one that Bram Stoker took inspiration from and called it Dracula's Castle, they say it's not. But according to our tour guide, Vlad Tepes himself was likely to have stayed here. It overlooks his kingdom, it's on the way home, and I think the other castle, is it Panoa or begins with a P? People keep thinking that's the castle he would have stayed in. Apparently that's not the case, so this is Vlad's castle. It's in a good position for him to travel home to, and it's strategically important. So there's the typical kind of turrets and the housing style. The architecture in Romania is very Germanic. I love it. So we hit some shots of the inside. I didn't take many, but I think it took a little bit just to give you a flavour of what the inside still looks like. It's still furnished, but there isn't the paintwork on the walls as it would have if it was original. So it would have painted roses. The floor, basically the woodworks would have roses and flower patterns on them. So all of that is now gone. And the courtyard. I've heard so many rumours about this well, and none of them have really checked out, so I think a lot of them are just rumours. If you go to Segeshwara Castle though, that's the one where the peasants were pushed down a well. So that's probably the castle people keep thinking is this castle, but it's not. So in this next section, if we look down, that old wall you can see is the old toll road, the old kind of wall which segmented Wallachia from Transylvania. So the area you're in with these castles is Transylvania. That is that is the county. And here is the man himself. So Vlad Tepes, some interesting things about Vlad Tepes. He was born in 1431. Died around 76, but that is debated. So he was actually the prince 3 times over, so it's something which kind of kept coming back up. The name also, Tepes, is a translation for the impaler, and it is known that, of course, he impaled some of his subjects. He was a harsh ruler. But what you will find is people in Romania actually are very proud of having Vlad Tepes as a politician, as a figurehead. So when we visited Romania, the politician debates were going on, and there were like quiet, peaceful riots going on about corruption in politics. And the joke was a guy dressed up as Vlad Impaler and was like, "Did you miss me?" Because obviously when Vlad ruled, that doesn't happen. He stamped out corruption. He did not believe in corruption. So he's a debated character, a bit of a hot topic. But I felt like we had to slip him in somewhere. And you can see the crests. The one with the roots is the crest for the area, the town itself, the kind of Transylvania county. I think it looks really kind of atmospheric in the winter. So I came in the winter and I think it's atmospheric. I would be interested in going to Sighișoara at some point. So that's on the map. And maybe even Timișoara. So definitely a return trip is needed. But yeah, now something interesting is about to happen. You're about to see some guys carrying a coffin. Please don't alarm yourself. It's for an experience going on in the castle where you can pay to sleep in a coffin in the castle at night. Because obviously it's a vampire castle. So yeah, that's what that is. Do not freak out. There is no dead body in that kind of coffin. So back to Brasov. Now we're in Brasov, I promise. We took before going home, just had some food, had a look around. Again, not many touristy kind of shops. But when you get to Bran Castle, the town of Bran is a tourist attraction. So you will find lots of tourists in Bran. So the journey itself was about 3 hours. We had a little issue on the way back, but it sorted out. Thankfully, I can speak German, so I was able to solve the issue because the person who was telling us the train was kind of kaput. He was German, so we didn't end up in Bucharest. Sadly, I wouldn't have actually minded going, but not when we had to go to Milan the next day. So it's okay. And yeah, I definitely think if you haven't done Bran Castle, definitely put it on there. I know they say it's haunted, but I didn't feel anything, I'm afraid. Normally, if I'm a little bit I can pick up on energies, and I didn't get it this time. I kind of felt the castle itself was quite homey. It felt quite nice. They have an Impaler display section just because of the tourists, but it wouldn't have looked like that. So yeah, we slowly going back to Sibiu. I kind of started missing Sibiu at this point. I think Sibiu is a great place, and it hasn't overtaken my love for Germany, and I will be returning to Germany in the summer. We're doing a kind of road trip, so lots to go. But again, I'm going to say thank you for tuning into this video, and bear with me. I will fix the audio once I can afford a mic. I need a new battery for the camera because obviously with it being a mirrorless camera, it kind of dies easily. And yeah, a nice night shot of Sibiu town centre before we had some food. We ate traditional all days. I refuse to go to a new country and not eat traditional food. But no, I love Sibiu, and I really do recommend you guys come if you don't want a touristy adventure. So again, thanks for tuning in, guys. The next video should be up within a few days, 3 days, 4 days maybe. And yeah, I will see you next time.